All right, let's jump right in.
Sounds good to me.
Today's deep dive. 1940.
Yeah.
Big year, right? I mean, the first full year of World War II.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of people, I think, know about, like Dunkirk or the Battle of Britain, but there's
Right.
so much more to it.
Right.
And I think we're going to uncover a bunch of stuff today that I think is going to
Yeah.
really connect all these pieces together
Yeah.
in a way that'll surprise people.
I think so. Yeah.
But to kick things off, we're going to start with something
Okay.
that might seem a little bit out of left field.
Yeah.
We're going to start with the Winter War.
The Winter War, which wrapped up in March of 1940.
Yeah. So Finland versus the Soviet Union,
Right.
David and Goliath, Winter Warfare.
Yeah.
But beyond those headlines,
Yeah.
what's the takeaway here?
Well, for one, Finland held off the Red Army
Yeah.
for 105 days.
Really?
Inflicting heavy losses. Think about that. A nation with a fraction of the manpower and resources standing up to a giant like the USSR.
Yeah.
They used the terrain to their advantage, their expertise in winter warfare, and
Yeah.
that famous Finnish grit, or sisu, as they call it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it wasn't enough to win.
Right. So they were forced to sign a peace treaty,
With Moscow on March 12th.
losing some territory.
Yeah.
But you're saying this had a bigger impact on the war
Oh, absolutely.
than we might think.
Yeah. I mean, some historians argue that its impact on Hitler's decision-making was minimal.
Yeah.
But you really have to think about it.
Yeah.
Seeing the Soviets struggle against this much smaller nation.
Yeah.
I mean, that must played into the existing Nazi racial ideology, feeding into the idea that the Slavs were inferior.
Yeah.
And probably reinforced this dangerous belief that a swift German attack
Right.
could shatter the Soviet regime.
Okay. So this seemingly distant conflict in the snowy north
Right.
could have been a factor in Hitler's disastrous decision to launch Operation Barbarossa later on.
It very well could have been.
That's a chilling thought.
Yeah. It really adds another layer to our understanding of Hitler's motivations.
Yeah.
And for Finland,
Yeah.
it was a turning point. You know,
Okay.
later, they joined the war on the side of the Axis.
Right.
But not, out of ideological sympathy, but more
Yeah.
out of a desperate attempt to try to regain their lost territory.
It really makes you realize how complex these wartime alliances were.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, just,
Much more nuanced.
yeah, good guys versus bad guys, like
Yeah.
cut and dry.
Exactly. National survival often trumped, any grand moral principles.
Yeah.
And speaking of survival,
Yeah.
let's shift our focus to a truly shocking period. April 1940, Blitzkrieg.
Oh, yeah.
That word
Such a powerful word.
really evokes that sense of speed and just overwhelming force,
It's easy to just throw that word around, but
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people really understand,
Yeah.
myself included, what made Blitzkrieg so revolutionary.
It wasn't just about speed.
Right.
It was this radically new way of using combined arms.
Okay.
So imagine these coordinated assaults.
Yeah.
Where Stuke dive bombers, known for their terrifying sirens,
Oh, yeah.
softening up defenses,
Yeah.
creating chaos and panic.
Yeah.
Then fast-moving panzer divisions would exploit those breaches,
Okay.
bypassing heavily fortified positions,
Yeah.
pushing deep into enemy territory.
So it was like a perfectly choreographed dance of destruction,
Yeah.
combining air and ground forces in a way that had never been seen before, and
Exactly.
it caught the Allies completely off guard.
Completely.
Denmark, Norway,
Netherlands, Belgium,
they all fell in rapid succession.
within a matter of days or weeks. I mean, it's hard to overstate the psychological impact of this.
Yeah.
Just imagine the sense of dread and disbelief
Right.
as the news of these rapid defeats spread.
It must felt like an unstoppable force, like a tidal wave crashing over Europe.
It really was.
And then comes Dunkirk,
Yeah.
a moment of desperate retreat, but also,
Yeah.
like we said, incredible courage and resilience.
Yeah.
Over 338,000 Allied troops rescued from the beaches of France.
Between May 26th and June 4th,
When you hear those numbers, it's hard to fathom the scale of it.
think about it.
Yeah.
Tracked soldiers
Yeah?
facing capture or annihilation,
Yeah.
Luftwaffe constantly overhead,
Yeah.
and then out of the mist,
Yeah.
this incredible flotilla arrives.
Wow.
Not just warships,
Yeah.
fishing boats,
Right.
pleasure crafts,
Wow.
anything that could float.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What a What an image, you know?
Yeah.
This motley crew of vessels braving enemy fire
Right.
to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat.
It's truly amazing.
What must have been going through the minds of those soldiers
Yeah.
waiting on those beaches?
Yeah, you have to wonder.
Their hopes dwindling with each passing hour.
Yeah.
It must have been just utter chaos.
Oh, it was. Over 800 vessels participated.
Wow.
Many of them manned by civilian volunteers.
It's a real testament to the human spirit that they pulled it off
It really is.
under constant attack.
Oh, yeah. The Luftwaffe was relentless.
Dunkirk might have been a military defeat,
Right.
but it became a symbol of defiance.
Absolutely.
This idea that even when backed into a corner,
Right.
there's always a way to fight back.
It really is.
And I think that spirit
Oh, definitely.
was crucial for morale back in Britain.
Yeah, you need something like that to hold on to,
Yeah.
to keep going.
Absolutely.
It gave them the strength
Yeah.
to face the next challenge.
Which was
The Battle of Britain.
the fate of Britain, of Europe.
Maybe even the entire war
Yeah.
hanging in the balance.
This wasn't just a battle for air supremacy.
Yeah.
It was a battle for survival.
Right.
And this battle was unlike anything that had come before.
It was fought primarily in the skies.
Yeah.
And controlling that airspace over the English Channel was absolutely vital.
Yeah. If Germany had any hope
Yeah.
of launching a successful invasion.
It all began on August 13th, 1940.
A date that will forever be etched in history,
Adler tag.
or Eagle Day, as it's known.
Yeah.
The Luftwaffe's plan was ambitious.
What were they hoping to do?
They wanted to cripple the RAF
Okay.
through a series of concentrated attacks on their airfields and radar stations.
Paving the way for that seaborne invasion.
Exactly.
But the RAF had a few tricks up their sleeve, right?
They did.
Okay, like what?
Well, their radar system,
Yeah.
which was still relatively new technology at the time,
Okay.
allowed them to detect these incoming German formations much earlier.
Giving their fighter squadrons precious minutes
Yeah.
to scramble and meet the attack.
Yeah.
And then there was the home field advantage, too.
Right. A British pilot, if he was shot down, could bail out,
Okay.
land safely, and be back in the air within hours.
And that wasn't the case for the Germans.
No, not at all. And of course, we can't forget the sheer bravery and skill of those RAF pilots.
Those were incredible men.
The few.
Churchill called them the few, which I think captures it perfectly.
Yeah, it really does.
Facing overwhelming odds day after day.
Pushing themselves to the limit.
These are young men,
Yeah.
many barely out of their teens,
Wow.
fighting for their homes, their families,
Yeah.
their very way of life.
And their victory had an impact
Yes,
that resonated far beyond the shores of Britain
absolutely.
by denying Germany air superiority.
Yeah.
They thwarted Operation Sea Lion, right?
It did.
Hitler's planned invasion.
It was a turning point.
Yeah.
It proved that the Nazi war machine, despite its early victories,
Yeah.
was not invincible.
Shattering that aura of inevitability
Right.
that had surrounded the German advance.
It gave hope to those who were resisting Nazi aggression.
It's hard to imagine the sense of relief
I know.
and jubilation that must have swept through Britain after the Battle of Britain.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah. But as we'll see,
Right.
the war was far from over,
Not by a long shot.
and new challenges were emerging.
They were all over the place.
Welcome back to our deep dive into 1940.
Glad to be back.
You know, we've talked about some of the major turning points in the war so far, but what I really find fascinating about history is it's not just about these grand events.
Right.
It's these seemingly minor incidents, the ones that don't make the headlines,
Right.
that really illuminate the path of events.
Absolutely. A real butterfly effect at play. And
Right.
1940 is full of examples of this, how
Yeah.
these seemingly unrelated events can have a significant impact on the bigger picture.
Okay, so give me an example.
Okay, so let's consider the Mechelin incident in January of 1940.
Okay, the what incident?
The Mechelin incident.
Okay, I don't think I'm familiar with that one.
So a German plane carrying vital plans for Fallgelb, their invasion of France and the Low Countries,
Okay.
crashed in neutral Belgium.
Wow, really?
It was a major intelligence blunder.
Wow, talk about a stroke of luck for the Allies.
Oh, yeah.
So they must have been scrambling to get their hands on those documents.
Oh, they were, absolutely. The Germans managed to recover most of the plans,
Okay.
but the Allies still got a glimpse into
Yeah.
their strategy, even if it was incomplete.
So knowing what the Germans were planning,
Right.
did they use that information?
Well, that's where it gets tricky.
Okay.
Some historians argue that the Allies didn't fully grasp the significance of those captured plans.
Okay.
Or maybe they just underestimated the speed and audacity of the German blitzkrieg.
Right.
They were still thinking in terms of static defenses and trench warfare.
Yeah.
While the Germans were already operating on a whole new level.
It's like they were playing checkers.
Yeah.
And the Germans were playing three-dimensional chess.
I like that. Perfect analogy.
All right. So to add another layer of complexity to all of this.
Okay.
Let's revisit the Battle of Britain for a second.
Sure.
We discussed the RAF's victory.
Right.
But there's this lesser-known incident that had a surprisingly big impact.
There are always these little things
that
have these huge ripple effects.
The accidental bombing of Cripplegate.
Ah, yes. Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
You're telling me
the
Germans accidentally bombed their own target?
Not quite.
Okay.
So, on August 24th, 1940, a group of German bombers aiming for industrial targets in London drifted off course and dropped their bombs on residential areas in Cripplegate.
A historical district right in the heart of the city.
Yeah, it's a tragic mistake.
Wow, so civilian casualties.
Sadly, yes.
Okay.
Significant damage and loss of life.
Wow. And this changed the course of the air war.
It did, in a completely unexpected way.
Okay, I'm all ears. How did this one bombing raid shift the entire strategy?
So Churchill, understandably furious about this attack on civilians, ordered a retaliatory bombing raid on Berlin.
Okay.
Now this, in turn, enraged Hitler, who, in a fit of anger, shifted the Luftwaffe's focus from crippling RAF airfields to bombing London.
Wow, so instead of strategically targeting Britain's air defenses, they switched to terrorizing the civilian population.
He wanted revenge, pure and simple.
Which seems counterproductive.
It was a major strategic blunder.
Okay.
It allowed the RAF to regroup, repair their airfields, and ultimately win the Battle of Britain.
Wow. So sometimes a leader's emotions can have unintended consequences.
Oh, absolutely.
That reshape the course of history.
In huge ways.
It's incredible how these seemingly random...
I know, it's fascinating.
Even accidental events can have such a huge impact on the war.
It makes you wonder what might have happened.
Right. What if that bombing raid never happened?
Right, exactly. History is full of what-ifs.
Oh, yeah.
But let's not forget about Italy's ill-fated entry into the war.
Ah, yes. Mussolini's grand ambitions quickly unraveled, didn't they?
It's almost hard to believe how badly things went for Italy.
Yeah, you look back and you think, how could they have misjudged the situation so badly?
They were so eager to grab a slice of the victory pie.
Yeah, they wanted that glory.
Yeah.
But they severely miscalculated.
Their equipment was outdated.
Their logistics were a mess.
And their leadership.
Yeah, let's just say it left something to be desired.
Yeah, to put it mildly.
Yeah. So their initial attack on British Somaliland in August of 1940 was successful. But it was more a reflection of British weakness in the region than any real Italian strength.
And then their invasion of Egypt in September quickly stalled.
Yeah, turning into a humiliating defeat.
Yeah.
The British, under General Archibald Wavell, launched this brilliant counteroffensive in December 1940, known as Operation Compass. Okay. They completely routed the Italians.
Wow, really?
Captured tens of thousands of prisoners.
What a turnaround.
It really was.
What was the impact of this on Mussolini?
It was a devastating blow to his prestige.
Yeah.
Both domestically and internationally.
Okay.
It also exposed the weaknesses of the Italian military.
Yeah.
And forced Hitler to divert German troops to North Africa.
Okay, so while Britain was holding their own against Germany in the air and pushing back against Italy in North Africa.
Right.
What was the diplomatic scene like?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I imagine there was a lot of maneuvering going on behind the scenes.
Absolutely. 1940 was a year of intense diplomatic activity with both sides trying to strengthen their alliances and win over neutral nations.
We talked about the tripartite pact, Germany, Italy, and Japan. Formally aligning as the Axis powers.
Right.
What were some of the other significant diplomatic developments?
One particularly interesting episode was the meeting between Hitler and Franco.
Okay.
In October of 1940.
Franco, the leader of Spain.
Yes.
He had emerged victorious from the Spanish Civil War just a few years earlier.
1939, I believe.
Right. So a fascist dictator?
Yeah.
I'd imagine he'd be eager to join the Axis.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But Franco was
yeah.
a very shrewd
yeah.
and cautious leader.
Yeah.
He knew that Spain was in no condition to enter another major conflict.
Right. Still recovering from its own civil war.
So what did Hitler want from Franco?
Yeah.
His main goal was to persuade Franco to allow German troops to pass through Spain.
Right.
He wanted to attack the British base at Gibraltar, which controlled access to the Mediterranean.
If he'd succeeded.
Oh, it would have been a major strategic blow to the British.
Yeah.
It would have given the Axis control of a vital sea route and put enormous pressure on British forces in the Mediterranean.
So did Franco agree?
Franco played his cards close to his chest. He knew he had leverage.
Yeah.
So he demanded exorbitant concessions from Hitler.
Like what?
He wanted vast amounts of military aid, food supplies, even control over French Morocco.
Wow, he was driving a hard bargain?
He was.
Did Hitler agree?
Not even close.
Okay.
Hitler, frustrated by Franco's reluctance,
yeah,
ultimately balked at his demands.
So the meeting ended without an agreement.
It did.
Okay.
And Spain remained neutral.
Wow. So Franco's refusal to play ball was a lucky break for the Allies.
Yeah, you could say that.
It's amazing how these diplomatic encounters, often happening behind closed doors,
it's true,
could have such a huge impact on the course of the war.
It's a reminder that war isn't just fought on battlefields.
Right.
It's a complex web of political maneuvering, economic pressure, and yes, even personal ambitions and rivalries.
Yeah, you know, and speaking of those personal ambitions, it's easy to focus on the actions of the major players.
Right, like Hitler, Mussolini, Churchill.
Yeah, exactly.
Those big names.
But we can't forget about the experiences of ordinary people during this time.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
War affects everyone.
Right.
Not just those on the front lines.
And 1940 was a year that brought the realities of war home to millions of civilians across Europe.
It really did.
We've talked about the Blitz in Britain.
Right.
But what about life on the other side of the conflict?
Okay.
What was it like for civilians living under Nazi occupation?
Life under occupation was incredibly difficult.
Yeah?
Often terrifying.
Yeah.
Nazi ideology and racial policies were ruthlessly implemented with devastating consequences for Jewish communities and other targeted groups.
It's hard to even fathom the fear and uncertainty that people must have felt.
Yeah, to have your life upended like that, your freedom stripped away.
Your future shrouded in darkness.
Yeah.
Resistance movements began to emerge in occupied countries.
They did.
But they faced enormous risks.
Oh, yeah, huge risks.
Yeah, acts of defiance, even small ones, could be met with brutal reprisals.
So even in the face of this oppression, there were still those who were willing to stand up and fight back.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's inspiring, really.
And those acts of resistance, whether armed or passive, played an important role in undermining Nazi control.
They did.
And sustaining hope for a better future.
Absolutely.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can endure and find ways to resist tyranny.
It's a testament to the strength of the human will.
We've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
We have.
From accidental bombings to diplomatic deadlocks, from the horrors of occupation to the inspiring stories of resistance.
So what are some of the key takeaways
Yeah.
that you think are crucial for understanding this pivotal year?
Yeah.
I think one thing that really stands out to me is that 1940 was a year of just immense change. Upheaval. Yeah. You know, the world was in flux. Yeah. The old order was crumbling before everyone's eyes. It was a time of great uncertainty, but also a time of extraordinary human resilience.
Yeah, and it's clear that the decisions made and the options taken during this year had a profound impact on the trajectory of the war.
Absolutely.
Shaping the destiny of nations and the lives of millions.
And as we delve into the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore how the events of 1940 set the stage for the global conflict that was about to engulf the world.
Welcome back to our deep dive into 1940.
It's good to be here.
You know, we've explored battles, blunders, acts of incredible bravery.
Absolutely.
But as we head into this final stretch, I'm kind of curious about something.
Okay.
We briefly touched on the shifting global alliances earlier.
Right.
But I think there's a whole lot more to uncover there, especially when it comes to the Soviet Union. They were playing a very strategic, and let's be honest, ruthless game, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
While officially neutral at the start of the war, Stalin was anything but a passive observer.
Right.
He saw the conflict as an opportunity, a chance to expand Soviet power.
Okay.
Particularly in Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
And he wasn't afraid to use force to get what he wanted.
So we tend to think of the major fighting happening in Western Europe.
Right.
But meanwhile,
the Soviets were making their own moves.
Okay.
Reshaping the map in a way that would have long-lasting consequences.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in June of 1940, the Soviets issued ultimatums to the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, demanding they allow Soviet troops to enter their territories.
This is essentially forcing them.
It was a blatant power play.
Yeah.
These small nations, fearing a full-scale invasion, had little choice but to comply.
So they were essentially forced to become Soviet republics.
Exactly. Rigged elections were held, pro-Soviet regimes were installed, and it was all a precursor to the Soviet Union's post-war dominance in Eastern Europe.
It's a chilling reminder that while the world was focused on the fighting in the West, the seeds of future conflict were being sown in the East.
At the same time.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in this good versus evil narrative of World War II.
I know, it seems so simple at first, but it was much more complicated.
Right, like we said, multiple players pursuing their own interests.
Exactly.
And sometimes those interests aligned in unexpected ways.
Yeah, and the Soviets weren't the only ones who were engaged in these kinds of power grabs.
Okay.
In August of 1940, Hitler and Mussolini
Yeah.
forced Romania
Okay.
to cede the northern region of Transylvania to Hungary
Okay.
in what became known as the Second Vienna Award.
Right.
And this fueled resentment and instability in the region.
Right. Playing right into the hands of the Axis powers.
Exactly.
Now, while bombs were falling,
Right.
armies were clashing,
Yeah.
there was this whole other layer of
Yeah.
political maneuvering
Right.
and territorial reshuffling going on.
Often with devastating consequences
Yeah.
for the people caught in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there was the world of espionage,
Okay, yeah, espionage.
which was absolutely crucial during this period.
Yeah, both sides were,
Desperate.
desperate for any intelligence they could get
Anything.
on their enemies' plans, capabilities, intentions.
It's like something out of a spy novel, you know?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Secret agents, code breakers, daring missions behind enemy lines.
Very cloak and dagger.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it must have been a constant game of cat and mouse. What kind of impact did all of these espionage efforts have on the war?
Well, accurate intelligence could mean the difference between victory and defeat.
Right.
Between life and death.
Wow.
You know, it could help anticipate enemy movements, disrupt supply lines.
Yeah.
Even sabotage crucial operations.
Espionage played a vital role in shaping the course of the war.
It did.
Even if much of it remained hidden from public view.
A lot of it we're still learning about today.
It really makes you think about all the unseen battles that were being fought.
Yeah, those hidden struggles.
Yeah.
That were just as important as the ones taking place on the front lines.
But in the midst of all this darkness and conflict, were there any glimmers of hope?
There were.
Any stories of individual resilience that emerged from the chaos of 1940?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, like what?
Well, we talked about the civilian volunteers.
Right, from Dunkirk.
Yeah, who risked their lives to rescue soldiers from Dunkirk.
Yeah.
The firefighters who bravely battled the flames during the Blitz.
And the families who opened their homes to refugees, sharing what little they had. It's
really a testament to the human spirit.
Yeah, absolutely.
That even in the face of such adversity, people found ways to help each other.
Yeah. And what about the women who stepped up
to
fill these essential roles?
Yeah, working in factories, driving buses,
right,
serving in auxiliary units of the armed forces.
They kept their societies functioning.
They did.
Their economies running.
Yeah.
And their spirits high.
These stories remind us that war is not just about armies and battles.
Right.
It's about the choices that individuals make in the face of extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah, it's about the resilience of the human spirit.
The capacity for courage and compassion,
Absolutely.
Even in the darkest of times.
As we bring our deep dive into 1940 to a close, it's clear that this was a year The immense challenges and profound transformations.
Absolutely.
It was a year that tested the limits of human endurance.
It really did.
And set the stage for the global conflict that was about to unfold.
Yeah, it really set things in motion.
We've seen the devastating consequences of unchecked aggression.
Yeah.
The importance of unity and resolve.
Absolutely.
And the enduring power of the human spirit.
That really shines through.
Yeah.
And as we reflect on the events of 1940, it's crucial to remember that the lessons of the past are more relevant than ever. The choices we make today, the actions we take, will shape the course of our future.
Absolutely.
Just as the events of 1940 shaped the world we live in today.
It's a sobering thought.
It is.
But also a reminder.
Yeah.
That we have the power to learn from history.
We do.
To strive for peace and understanding.
Right.
And to build a better world for ourselves. And future generations.
That's what it's all about.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Through one of the most pivotal years in human history.
It really has.
We hope you've gained a deeper understanding of the events that shaped our world.
Yeah, I feel
the enduring lessons they hold for us today.
Absolutely.
And until next time.
Yeah.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
And keep learning from the past.
See you next time.